You are now entering the MuseCast.
Oh, I just show it. Hey, what's up, everybody? We know how to do this. Ian was questioning if we've done this before, and the answer is yes. We've done this 67 other times.
Yes.
Because this is the 68th episode. Tonight, we have on special guest Ian Mckenzie, man of many things, Dimension Hopper, most notable Dimension Hopper.
Demon Slayer, RPG, LARPer, male porn star.
Also used to play guitar for Defy The Tyrant. That's a used to thing. Am I right in saying it that way?
Used to.
Still
Okay,
involved.
used to.
Still involved with Defy the Tyrant, and to some degree, though, right?
Just talking.
Yeah.
Not doing a whole lot of anything else.
Yeah. And you go ahead.
No. Most recently,
We have done this before.
most recently, you took a new job with a fun company.
Yeah.
iHeartradio.
iHeartmedia.
iHeartmedia. You see how in the past I am. Tell us. Welcome to our show. Tell us the whole deal.
All right. So, I don't know.
What you do? What you do there?
Yeah, because I don't really know what you do, Ian. I know you work for iHeartMedia, and you're involved with the radio, but you're not on the radio. So,
Correct.
like, what do you do?
So I don't DJ or host any shows. I place commercials. I also do a little bit of production, producing commercials and things like that. Help out with promos. Do a lot of stuff for tailgates. A lot of stuff with FSU. Some of those updates you've seen during games on our socials. That's me up in the press box typing in the scores and things like that.
Oh, okay, nice.
Super cool.
And then I get to work with very large national companies and regional and local companies on their advertising budgets.
Yeah.
I work on placing really cool advertisements throughout the whole country.
That's killer.
Awesome.
That's killer.
Yeah.
And that's still all on like radio, like FM radio, right?
Oh, it's FM radio. Okay. So FM
Streaming
radio
too.
is big, right? We don't have any AM really in Tallahassee. So it's all FM. If you're in a big market, AM's still huge.
Wow.
So on top of that, we have, if you want, I can run down the whole list.
The whole gamut.
Streaming audio advertisements, podcast advertisements, digital display advertisements, location OTT, which is CTV, but they renamed it to CTV because over-the-top advertisements makes no sense. Placing advertisements on Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, digital display using clickstream data, proprietary information that I can't talk about.
Yeah.
Then there's social SEO, SEM, a whole gambit of things.
Right on. So you are involved in basically the advertising on the full digital gamut.
Yeah, every digital aspect of advertising we do, radio we do, and the fun part to me is I get to do a lot of commercials and things. You've heard my voice on the radio at this point in a bunch of commercials without.
That's what you're doing? You're that's one of the aspects that you're doing with the commercials is you're voicing them too?
A bunch of them, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh,
Not too many.
okay.
You don't want to be too many.
Yeah.
Weird. But I get to have fun. I get to do weird accents. I get to do that stuff.
That does sound like a super fun project.
What kind of accents are you talking about?
Let's see.
Are you allowed to say? Are
English
you
accents?
okay?
Not full Cockney, but definitely like it would be offensive.
That's what I was wondering. It's like, are you?
If I did it in England, they'd laugh at me. But because we're in America, they fuck them.
Yeah.
It's like cheerio, mate. This is Ian from iHeartRadio. We're gonna play some jammers for you now. Okay.
There you go.
You can't do it.
And then I get to do some really fun country accents if I want to get really into the country.
Yeah,
I get to do
yeah.
that. Like
Yes.
if you've heard the Tommy Tune-Up ads, a lot of those are me.
Okay. Wow.
I need to like get a channel. You know, you remember that movie Demolition Man where they were in the future and Sandra Bullock and the guy and they're in the cop car and the radio is just the old commercials. It's not music anymore.
Right.
It's
I forgot
just
about
the old
that.
jingles. The old jingles from the commercials.
You're old. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Demolition Man, kids, look it up. Sylvester Stallone.
Great movie.
One of the best movies ever made.
So good.
I've been wanting to watch that again for so long and still just haven't gotten
It's
over
so
to
good.
it. It was really good. I saw it so many times growing
Yeah.
up.
I like the original Judge Dredd too.
Oh yeah, dude, and I'll tell you the newer Judge Dredd with Carl Urban.
Oh, it's good.
Flopped. I watched it recently. I watched it a week ago. It was super good, really good. Like this was a really good movie, but it just wasn't the old one, and everybody compared it to the Stallone one.
I'll watch almost anything with Carl Urban in it.
Yeah,
He's great.
really good.
He's great.
Really good.
But I think the original Judge Dredd kind of flopped too, if I remember correctly. I think it got a cult following after, but I think the theatrical release, they way overspent. It was Disney.
They made a lot of money off.
Was it Disney?
It was Disney's first rated R movie, wasn't it? That was what the controversy was about it.
Maybe.
Was that their first rated R movie?
I think that was their first rated R movie, and then it flopped, and then they didn't do it again.
It was another Sylvester Stallone movie where they had the comic relief actor was Rob Schneider, right? Because Rob Schneider was in Demolition Man. He's the guy that says, "Oh, he doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells."
Right.
And then in Judge Dredd, Rob Schneider was in it too, right?
He was
Wasn't
a
he?
criminal. He was a criminal that he was trying to get out of the city.
Yeah.
Didn't
I
happen.
can't remember it to save my life, but I remember Rob Schneider was in it.
Rob Schneider's been in most of the best movies ever.
I think so.
I've never heard that.
Some former
The background of Titanic, guaranteed.
Yeah, he's in there.
Okay.
He's in Avatar.
He's in Schindler's List. He's in.
Yes. Yes.
Such a statement. Oh man. Well, anyway, back to the radio stuff. It's kind of interesting though how many. So, am I correct in understanding that ultimately, I think it used to be more. It's come down some in the last 5 or 6 years, maybe. But is it still like 80% of like radio is ultimately owned by Clear Channel and then subsidiaries of that?
No, not anymore.
It
Okay.
used to be Cumulus and Clear Channel.
No, those are the two big names everybody knows. But honestly, that's because we're in Florida. If you actually look at the entire map, CBS actually owns a lot of radio stations. Odyssey is a big one. Odyssey just sold 200 radio stations to George Soros.
Whoa.
He's
Wow.
starting his own radio thing. Odyssey is doing this whole thing. It's in the news a little bit, in the radio news. They're talking. There's talks of a merger with a different company, not iHeart. Then there's. In Tallahassee, you have Adams Radio, which has 4 markets. It's small. Then you have Magic Broadcasting, which is here and Panama City, I think. And then there's a lot of different little stations and little clusters all over the place. So it just happens that in Tallahassee, iHeart and Cumulus are by far the 2 biggest. And that that's a lot of North Florida.
Okay.
So iHeart happens to have the biggest name, because we also have a lot of the bigger talents, like Elvis Duran is on the top 40 guy. Ryan Seacrest, everybody knows Ryan Seacrest. He's with us. And then you got Bobby Bones, who's the country morning show guy. He's the biggest country morning show host in the country. He also does a lot of sports, one of the bigger podcasts in the country as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in no way could iHeart own 80% just because of antitrust lawsuits and things like that. There'd be a monopoly issue at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was that way at one point, right? And then some things were enacted.
What happened was, and and I got big into the history once I got hired, right?
Yeah.
Back when Clinton was in office, they reduced the restrictions, and I can't remember the name of the act. It reduced the level of restriction of how many radio stations could be owned by a company.
Mm-hmm.
iHeart came in, well, Clear Channel at the time, came in and bought more radio stations than anybody else at the time, but they still didn't own the lion's share. iHeart, as far as I'm aware, never owned most of the radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
They just were the biggest fish in the pond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Interesting.
Now is because iHeart was nationwide. Before iHeart, was it more regional? Like, did you have? Because I don't even know. Was Clear Channel and Cumulus more of like a southeastern regional radio, and then you had different ones in the different areas, or?
So before all that, back in the day, that's when it was true local radio.
Yeah.
Right. So as an example, like the building I'm in with iHeart, which used to be Clear Channel, used to have from what I was told, 80 to 100 employees in it, between all the radio stations and everything going on. We currently have 1, 2, 3, 10.
10 people?
10.
Wow. Yeah.
2 on air.
20%.
2 on air.
Reduction of 80% of the former employee rate.
Yeah, we don't need a lot of the back end stuff anymore. It's all automated. Computers I think you guys you've seen that. You've been savvy to it.
Yeah.
As technology changes, there's less need for bodies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that really was most of it, and then iHeart kind of pioneered the idea of having, hey, we can have a DJ here. He could also be in all these other markets at the exact same time.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get rid of some DJs.
Ouch.
And they got rid of a lot of DJs.
Well, tell me this. The DJs at this point, they don't necessarily affect the music that's being played, right? These are primarily, this is the personalities that talk between the music, yeah?
That depends. It really depends on different scenarios. So there is still a playlist that can be edited and moved, and things can be moved around and added in. For the most part, that kind of the idea of hey, I'm gonna get into the studio an hour early and pick all the songs I'm gonna play and put them in the deck, or once computers came in, that kind of went out the wayside, and then you have program directors that essentially choose the playlists. And they choose the playlist based on what iHeart has in the set aside for that category. So like X1015, for example, we used to be the new rock alternative in Tallahassee. That's what it was called, right?
Yep. Yeah.
They dropped that tagline a few years ago. That's just X1015. So we play hit rock music.
Yeah.
That's the format. The format is hit rock music. So, and that's what they do. So that's why you'll hear a lot of Pearl Jam, Metallica, you hear those things. And then you'll hear, a lot of times you'll hear a lot of the newer music closer to the end of the hour. Like, so if you tune in 20 minutes before the end of the hour, you'll hear newer music because that's when they test out the new music. And if the new music hits, and not just in one market, it hits everywhere, then it gets started putting into regular rotation. The thing is, a lot of times we'll play some of this new music, and we'll do it for a few weeks, and nothing comes of it. They drop off the Billboard, and they're done.
What does come of it? Like, what's the barometer that you guys are using to measure if it's...
I wish I knew. That's above my pay grade.
Interesting. Because it's like, is it like, do people literally click off at that point and switch stations? Is there some, you don't know.
Like, oh, never heard this. I'm going to change the station. Like, I always wonder how they could pick up how many listeners they have. Like,
well, in Tallahassee, it's a little bit different, but in other cities, they actually have books that are digital books. You know, it's the old school, you know, ratings books, diaries. But in big cities, they actually have a device that listens, that you keep on you, and it knows what radio station you're listening to. So it can pick up, and then they use algorithms to decide who's listening and when. In Tallahassee, it's still old school books. It's actually a diary that gets filled out.
Taking over, they're taking over, everything taking over, they're taking over, taking over, they're taking over, everything taking over, they're taking over. Can I create music with emotion? Bring about change or inspire devotion. Harmonia only wants to rule our minds, make us their slaves and destroy our lives.
And then, of course, there's the numbers you can actually see on the streaming music apps, things like that.
That's traceable. That's totally traceable. Yeah, if you plug in
100%.
something on your stream. I'm just curious, when you're in a car and you've got 101.5 on the radio, do they know that because they're linked into your phone and they hear it?
If you're listening to it through your phone, yes.
Yes, but if you're
If
just
you're
on
listening
the,
to it on the radio dial, no,
there's no way. Yeah,
no way of knowing.
that's so strange. But that part, that's the archaic dinosaurs version of listening to the radio, right? I mean, I'm going by my experience. When the last time I actually tuned in on the radio, you know, I have Amazon Music, and like I get irritated with Amazon Music because it'll default to a playlist, right? Just like a radio playlist where I have Amazon Music. I have liked over. I've had it for 10 years probably, and I've probably liked in my like section thousands, like 3,000 songs over the last 10 years. And when I hit like random, like play my soundtrack, it will default to the same 20 or 30 songs. Yeah. And it'll revolve them, and it'll irritate me, and I'll say, okay, you know what? Like the other day, I was like, I haven't heard this album by Pulse Ultra, a one album band from 30 years ago, 2001. And I like just queued the album up. I liked it, added it to my playlist, and listened to the whole thing. And since I did that, now when I do my soundtrack, it's like, because it's recent, it plugged it in, and it's actually, but it's only one or two songs on there. But but it still defaults to that same thing.
And I guarantee you the songs it defaults to are the ones that are most listened to by everybody else.
Yes. It'll be, I like a lot of obscure stuff. And when it starts defaulting my playlist, it's like the hits of the stuff that I like.
So I think when you look at how all of it works, right? The whole point is to keep you on it as long as possible.
Sure.
You are more likely to be on there if they're playing songs they know for a fact you like and that most other people like.
They're going with statistics.
Boom.
Sure. Yeah.
On top of that, they're not the only ones. It's everybody, which is why all of our radio stations play a strong playlist that we know the majority of people want to listen to, right? And then that's why it's tough when you try and push like local music onto a station and have those shows going on a format that's not designed for it, because most of the average listener on there are listening to the hits. They're listening to the big songs. They're listening to the big golden songs from Metallica. They're listening to stuff from Lynyrd Skynyrd. And then all of a sudden, you know, if they're late night listeners, and then all of a sudden you get a local song on there. And let's face it, most local music is nowhere near as mastered as the other stuff, right?
Yeah, most of it.
And
Agreed.
most
of it.
local musicians are nowhere near as good as the other stuff. Not all. There's some that are amazing and should have made it, but shit happens.
Right.
But for the majority of it, it's not. So
Yeah. I think the quality level has to be there to contend with the
exactly.
regular radio.
You're going
play.
up
Has
against
to be.
every other radio station and every digital asset. So the second you're in Metallica and then it's a song that is like, who's this? This sounds, oh, you know what? I'm going to listen to Nirvana on my phone. And then you've lost that listener.
Yep.
That's the business side of things. And then on top of that, we got to remember you want people listening so they can hear the commercials. Because that's who pays the bills and keeps all the lights on. And if you're not playing music that's going to keep people through the commercials, then you're not going to have a station very long.
I wish we knew what the barometer was to measure if a song is succeeding or not, because I feel like what?
Social.
In what way?
So a lot of time nowadays, everybody looks at social. Now, I'm not talking from hearing this from iHeart side. This is my opinion, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the bands that are getting to the point where they're being played at the bottom of the hour, a new band, you hear them, you go to their socials and their socials are blowing up. They either have a TikTok that's taken off or a YouTube video that's gotten 1 million plays. Something's hit and something's hit the zeitgeist at the moment. That they go, that's the group. Boom. Which is why only 1 in 1 million hit it, because they have to hit some magical ley line in the world that resonates with everybody else. And they hit it at that moment.
I do get that. It's unfortunate that radio is not a part of being that opportunity for people anymore, it seems like. And now it is. You have to build this business online and build exactly what you're talking about, so that way you've proven that there's already interest in what you're doing. Whereas radio used to be not only one of the players, but the player of doing that. And so it's kind of like this interesting new landscape where you have to prove yourself online to get that radio opportunity. And it's this chicken or the egg thing. It's like, people don't know it yet, but at the same token, they never will know it if they weren't exposed to it. Even with commercials and trying to get somebody to like learn or remember a product or something, they say 7 times is how many times you'd have to.
Well, yeah.
Like hear something and see it in different formats and find it in different places before you like internalize or internalize and memorize that, that exists.
You want to try that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like songs grow on you, but. And as far as the quality goes, that I totally get, man, there's a lot of, look, guys, if you've got local recordings, you can have great stuff, but it is different to go in and record a song in a day versus spending a few days recording a song. And, if you're trying to record an album in 3 days at a studio, just know that's awesome that you guys did that, but there's no way for that to hit the quality level that it has to hit in order to keep a consistent level of production quality across radio and streaming. There's a big drop off even on Spotify when I'm listening to other acts that are obviously more independent. That being said, there's insanely well recorded bands that are phenomenal that just don't have the exposure. I track them down online and like see that they've got barely any fans. Nobody knows they haven't gotten their break yet. And I'm like, that's insane that this band hasn't, gotten this left and right. And the quality is totally there from an ear standpoint.
Well, a good example, I think, of what you're saying is everybody knows the band Nothing More right now, right? They're kind of everywhere. They're being played all the time. They had, I think, before Johnny Hawkins, I think is the lead singer's name. Yeah. He was the drummer. They had like 3 lead singers before him and 3 albums.
Right.
And they were an Ernie Ball. They won the Ernie Ball like Battle of the Bands with a different lead singer. And they toured relentlessly, kind of like the old Almost Kings bands did and Super Bobs. Yeah. Right? They toured relentlessly until they had the one song that blew up on the radio and socials, which was, I can't remember the name of it. It was their first big hit.
the second album that they came out with, the Matthew Effect, had the song Ballast, This Is the Time.
That's it.
And that was when I first heard them. Yeah, that's the one. This is the time that we let it go.
That was his first album as the singer.
No, it was the second album.
That was with him as the singer.
Yeah, second album as the singer. The first album is like it was like the beta version of that second album, because I saw him live touring for the Matthew Effect album at Club LA. This would have been 2015, 2016 maybe. And incredible show to this day. One of the most incredible live shows I've ever seen. I was not ready for how good they were going to be. And that's when I found out that they had a previous album, because they had it for sale at the merch table, right? So I bought the CD. And this was long enough ago that it was like right at the cusp of changing from no hardware audio, all digital audio. So I bought the CD, still had a CD player, jammed it, and the first album is great. It's like a beta version of that Matthew Effect album. The Matthew Effect is like the perfected, polished version, right? So it was the first album was the songwriting was just as good. The songs were just as banging. They just didn't sound to the ear like what we're talking about as polished and as well done as that second album. So like you could tell they were on to something. They did it, and then when they recorded that second album with Johnny on vocals, it was just there. Everything was there clicking, and it was the perfect storm for them sonically. That it definitely caught my ear and hooked me. They haven't hooked me as well since. I think they've had 2 releases since then, and the audio quality is there, but the song to me, the songwriting, like they just haven't put out anything that hooked me like that album, the first 2 albums, right?
And that's exactly it. But that's how it goes, though. The band evolves, and how many bands have staying power like a Godsmack, Disturbed, Metallica?
Well, I don't. That's a hard thing to say, because they don't. A lot of bands fizzle out because they never get the opportunity to make money doing it, so they can't dedicate themselves to it fully like that.
Yeah, but once you've made it to a level of like nothing more, how many bands fizzle out after that? Oh,
most definitely a lot. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
It's hard.
That's true.
It's hard to stay relevant.
Well, I think it's not only relevant, but just some bands really do only have an album worth of material in them. That's unique.
That's fact.
Some people a lot of bands regurgitate the same sound, and some bands have such a unique sound that they can do that and get away with it for a few albums, and it still works. So all that's there, and people do like familiarity, and there's definitely, but I will say, the reason I haven't turned on the radio in so long is because, just burn out on the same playlist, and wanting to hear some different stuff on streaming has been like an amazing opportunity there. And I wish that there was like some stations that were more, and probably this exists across the country and I don't know about it, right? And I know that there's streaming stations that offer, playing other bands and stuff, but there is something about having just that radio opportunity that I do miss. It's because it's you don't have to hit play. You didn't have to cue it up. It's literally just on in the background. And I feel like it reminds me of this. It's like, what is the number one thing that you'd want to have the opportunity to do as a band that's performing to make it? What do you think is the best thing that you could have happen? I would say, outside of getting a song on the radio, it's opening up for a big act that you think their fan base you would identify, right? That if you go on a leg of a tour, you're paying for that, right? You have to pay to go on a leg of a tour with a big act, unfortunately. Yeah. So everything keeps hitting these paywalls, which is unfortunate in that regard. So it's like the last stand of something where you could just be played next to the fan base of something that's listening. It's kind of just gone to streaming, but in that space, it's just so much competition. I mean, it's so watered down with so many things. Whereas if it was happening on radio a little bit, if there were some jewels pulled out, and really peppered in there, I feel like that'd be the opportunity to like create some artists that then have bigger fan bases, and then just
Fair.
kind of.
I can say that while you have a point, there are still big bands out there currently that are playing arenas that aren't played on any radio stations.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a good
Do you mean
one
Do you mean bands that used to be played on the radio and no longer are? Or,
ever
okay.
were. And I mean, Beneath the Buried in Me, I think is the name of the band.
Between the Buried and Me.
They've never been on any radio.
BT Bam. BT Bam. Yeah, never been on the radio.
Yeah.
Huge
They
cult
play
following.
arenas.
Yeah.
Lorna Shore.
Lorna Shore. Yeah.
They don't get radio play.
I think Kill Switch Engage is in that category. Kill Switch Engage is
Yeah.
until they got the cover from Dio, they weren't really played on the radio.
yeah.
They had some MTV2 hits.
Yeah.
If ever.
So why
Aging,
aren't those
that's
bands
deal.
on the radio? Why don't we have those bands on the
Probably the
radio?
screaming.
80% of people don't want to listen to them.
Because what now? I'm sorry.
80% of people don't want to listen to them. But the beautiful thing about that is we have, 400 million people in America? You don't need 80% of people to want to listen to you.
Yeah.
No,
20%
most definitely not.
people still gonna, if 20% of America buys your album, it's going to be one of the best selling albums in history.
Well, that probably would be the best-selling album in
I think
history.
so.
Probably.
That's a lot.
As I
talked to the Beatles about that.
I got an email.
Right.
I got an email yesterday or today from like Spotify for Artists, and it was like this advertisement email that they sent saying that 2024 was the biggest payout year for streaming music in history. That they paid out, billions of dollars. And that was my exact. I like started reading. I said, "This is horseshit." There's no, there's no way.
Well, I mean, it's just spread across everybody. It's
probably true.
artists.
They've just they have more artists on there than ever before.
Yes. More saturated than ever, and all that tells me is that they made billions and billions more than they ever have because their profit margin versus the payout margin is way upside down.
It's too dispersed. I mean, the thing about radio is it's like brick and mortar. It's like having a brick and mortar store. You've got limited shelf space, so you have to have just the best stuff. You can't have everything. Every time slot that's taken up by a song, you got to choose it. You can't fill your store up with everything that's available.
That's right.
And because of that, it is a premium. It's this golden thing that every musician wishes that they could attain as an artist. And a lot of musicians that want that are simply not worthy of that time. I'm being completely honest here. Like it is so, when we're talking about the quality thing and like needing to hit a certain level of quality, it's almost impossible to get your first recordings as a young band and not think that they're the shit. I mean, you are so delusional about the quality of what you've got. But I'm telling you right now, guys, if you recorded your whole album in a week and, just a few days and it got mixed in a couple, like literally a week, that is not, you're competing against bands that spend, months in a studio putting together albums. And you could say that it could be more bare bones than that. But the reality is that it's still got to be, it can be bare bones, but it's got to be so well done, and the music has to be so well crafted. You can't have thin garage sounding stuff. That's different than a stripped down mix and not complicated song is very, very different than a shitty recording.
And this is what people, I already know it. Somebody's going to listen to this and go, "Oh, well, Dookie was recorded in 3 days." Ziggy Stardust.
Was it really?
Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, I think, is an album recorded in a week.
Yeah, and Rage Against the Machine's first album was recorded live in a tin shed, with the vocals in a separate room.
Look at me. I'm looking in the camera. You people are not Green Day. You are not Rage Against the Machine. You are not Ziggy Stardust.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You never will be.
Well,
you're right.
It can't be.
Right.
We have a pretty big audience, Ian.
Well, now there's another side to that coin, right? And the other side of that coin is what these local musicians typically are not, and that is aspiring hungry, talented audio recording engineers. Now, you can take a skilled, creative audio engineer, give him a big room, give him a couple of okay mics, give him a DAW that he knows how to work, and a band who plays well, and I guarantee you, you can come up with a unique sound with some magic. I did a lot of research on how things are recorded, and there are certain ways, but I guarantee you the local bands, 90% of them that are out here doing this, they're not working with some virtuoso recording guy. They're working with their buddy that's got an 8-track or whatever they can get their hands on for the least amount of money because they're poor.
Well, and that's the side of it now. It used to be where you had to get the best as possible at learning guitar, be great at singing, do this, and you're good. Now you have to be good at guitar, but you also have to be a good sound engineer or know somebody who is. Yeah. But you also don't need a big recording studio. I think I watched a video the other week, 12-Foot Ninja. I don't know if you guys know who they are.
Yeah, I love 12-Foot Ninja.
12-Foot Ninja, they recorded into like whatever it's called, the iPad thing.
Yeah.
That's how they demoed all their tracks, is going into a really good DAW, a really good recording software, but it was just through headphone jacks.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
In a shitty room, no acoustics.
Well, if you know what you're doing, I mean, and sometimes knowing what you're doing is relentlessly working on it for way more time, focus, and attention than an unhealthy, like an addiction. Like you spent a month mixing a song. You learned how to mix over 3 songs that you spent a month on each. You know, like that's how I learned how to do video. I mean, it's like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Like, how many 24-hour days have you had of just
editing? Oh God, I mean, and I still go through it annually. There's always a couple of projects that end up in this arena where I'm pushing some envelope that I've never touched before because I want to grow. But you have to like love it, be addicted to it. It's a whole other thing. And I would also point out that, and I'm saying this even as a video guy that's like a snob about cameras, and I love, but you can get away with a really low budget looking music video by playing into it. Like you can play into the fact that it's a cheap video. Don't deny it. Don't pretend like it's high budget. Play into it. But you can't do that with the audio. Like if the audio sucks, you just don't have anything. You're just a live band, and you got a demo out there that maybe you'll get somebody to understand what you got, and they'll come check it out.
Depending on the style, if you're trying to be like the next Spirit Box urban active rock band, you're not going to do it with like an old 8-track sound and recording.
I think. Well, like I agree, but just to put a caveat to what I just said, it does depend on the style. It depends on the genre. I mean, I think that for rock in particular, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to fatten it up and sound. If you're going for a straight garage band sound, as long as the drums and the vocals are good, you can get away with some really dirty, thinner guitars. Yeah. But acoustic wise, like if you're an acoustic song player or something, like you can get away with a way easier recording path. You know, you can make an acoustic. It's a lot less to deal with. Yeah. But trying to get a full rock song to punch versus and sit in the mix of a song list, a playlist, I should say, of bands that all have that. If yours just drops off a cliff when it gets to your song and it's just so thin, it just doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't work. It can work if you're only listening to that album.
So I think this is all comes back to a bunch of different things, right?
Oh, my soul is an element. My tears are born from pure lament. All my regrets have already came and went. Don't hold me back, 'cause I won't walk off sprint. Oh, my mind is spacious like a cave. I was born to be unchained and brave. Everything's starting to just sound the same. Let's show them that our hearts cannot be tamed. Our hearts cannot be tamed.
If you look at how it used to be 70s, 80s, right? You were a band, you were in a big market, because a lot of bands would be in small markets like Tallahassee and then move.
Mm-hmm.
If you're good enough, you get discovered, right? Discovered. Somebody saw you, fit the bill, essentially, gave you an upfront to go in. Hey, we're going to pay you to have the best producer, the best gear. Then we're going to pay for you to go on tour to make us money.
And you owe us all that money.
Somewhere along the way, probably with Napster, if we're going to be straightforward with it.
Yeah.
That stopped making as much money. Social media got huge. Bands got lazier because of social media.
Yeah.
And on top of that, labels said, well, we don't have to go out and discover people. We can sit in front of our computer, find somebody good that way.
Totally.
And even if they sound good, if no one's listening to them, we're not going to sign them. We're going to sign the person we know is going to bring people to the label.
Well, and you mentioned that they have to, that's looking at already a band that's focused enough and disciplined enough to create a business model that's established, the website, the social media presence, the consistency of showing up with your posts, all those things. Why would they not go with that band that's already proven that they've got the discipline to do this, they've got a fan base to start off with, and they sound amazing, they've got great energy, they're doing everything right, plus they've got this? Because that's what you're competing against, is like, you could have all the musical things that I just described, but there's also more bands than any label can sign that have that, plus an already built-in fan base, plus their website, plus their social media following. How would you not choose that as a business if you were going to invest money into it over the other?
Well, and that's
unless you just love the other music.
Yeah. The dark side of it is, there's the artist side. You're like, it's all about the art. All right. You can be a broke musician the rest of your life. That's fine. If you're happy doing it, cool.
Totally. Yeah. You don't have to make it to,
and play for cover bands or write your original music in front of nobody. That's fine. Right?
You make it sound so. I mean, some people really don't want the whole label route. I respect that.
And honestly, I've always said, if I end up living in New Orleans when I'm older, playing blues to 5 people, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because that's how I'd love to retire.
Yeah.
But if you want to be in the arena, if you want to be on stage with the big dogs, you need to be thinking like a big dog, which means you got to think business and art. And not just art, but art that resonates. And that's so hard to find. Because I know in Tallahassee, we have a bunch of great bands that if this was back in the early 90s,
oh man,
they'd be huge.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's everything. It's all the makings of the scene. It's the scene. Everybody's pushing each other. Everybody's great. But now, there
was money to be made.
Well,
there's not money to be made.
Record labels don't want to sign 40-year-old bands.
I know. Yeah. But I mean, also the record deal is, that also wrecked a lot of bands. I mean, it's so everything comes with a catch, and every opportunity presents another opportunity for failure, in a bigger way. I mean, there's bands that literally just could not recoup the money that they owed to the labels, and they're not allowed to write music anymore as that group.
There were bands that were, and this is stuff I saw in like VH1 and documentaries, right? There were bands that labels signed to intentionally shelf them.
Yeah, because they sounded too much like the other band that they had.
You're a great band. We're going to give you a 10-record deal. Here's $1 million. You now owe us $1 million.
Yes.
By the way, no, this album, we're going to keep it on the shelf for now, and then you're done. By the way, you need to pay back that $1 million.
Which is impossible because you can't perform as the band anymore.
Which means
yeah.
It was a dirty tactic back then.
Oh, it's terrible.
It might still happen today. I have no idea.
Well, it happens in a different form. I mean, I think that there's the notorious 360 deals are what started about 10 or 15 years ago. Right, where they get a part of everything. That's a new thing. Like it wasn't that they got ticket sales. They didn't get merch from when you're on tour, when you're selling shirts and stuff.
No.
They get everything. They get a part of everything now. And I get why they kind of need to, in respect to that there is not album sales anymore. I mean, what's the point of it? You have to recoup the money somehow. So it's like the live performance to me is the opportunity for the money making and figuring out media that you could sell. This is why video interests me so much, because I feel like you can move in a direction where you're making a multimedia experience that's worth having a physical copy or download of, right? Like whether this eventually goes to, like, let's say, here's my pitch is I think in the next, like, I know it keeps getting kind of like sidelined, VR headsets and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like they get going and they get sidelined. I'm not that into it, but I do think that from a multimedia concert experience that there's an untapped opportunity of really pushing the envelope on what you can do with music and that format. And it becomes something that you'd purchase the experience. You know, you download it. It gives you a reason to buy something, and then and I think that thing can also be unique. I mean, it depends on how social the band wants to be, but it's also like you talk about like this meeting, you know, right here. But this would be a lot like these kind of private experiences might be given to memberships for a cluster of bands or a label or whatever, and you get to sit in these more virtual experiences that feel like you're really right there, or watching the performer do start to finish. I mean, one thing I wanted to do, and I don't have the technology to do it, is to create it'd be basically a music video, but you have dedicated cameras to each person, right? Each in the band, and you don't have to place them like they would be placed in a normal traditional setup where you're making a live performance where they all have to hear each other or see each other and all that. You spread them out throughout this amazing, like, whatever it is. You could, from a pyramid to a cool warehouse or whatever. And there's a dedicated 360 camera for each one of them, or multiple cameras. And within the VR headset, you can actually choose to go to whatever angle you want to. And so that live DVD ultimately has like maybe 50 angles. So you get to keep, I say DVD, that's hilarious that I just called it a DVD. I bet DVD.
Live VHS. The Betamax.
But imagine if you could buy a performance of Name Your Band, right? And you have every angle from every direction, and when you're going into a VR headset, and it's like you're sitting there watching Danny Carey perform every part of the album, start to finish, and you can look at it from every angle. I mean, I think that'd be amazing, and it might be a really surreal experience. I
think that'd be really cool.
Wouldn't that be cool?
If I can offer a counter argument.
Yeah.
Are you guys wrestling fans?
UFC, buddy.
Like pro wrestling?
He's
Pro
a jiu-jitsu guy.
Sports entertainment.
Used to be when I was young.
Did you ever
really young?
You guys watch any of those videos of WWE during the pandemic?
No.
Where they were wrestling and there was nobody in there?
No. I watched
LED screens to make it of people watching.
Really?
Yeah. Well, UFC did similar to an extent.
UFC just had fights, but nobody in the audience.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
There's an energy to having the live crowd. There's an energy to having.
Oh yeah. Not a replacement for live. Not a replacement for live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ash is talking about like a music video, like an interactive music video, where you're essentially in the VR headset, and while the music video is going through its performance, like let's take a music video everybody knows, for example, like what's one that everybody knows? Metallica's Enter Sandman, Creed Higher, yeah. One of the Creed videos, right, where you can say, okay, you zoom in to Tremonti. Okay, I want to look at his hands. I want to look at his picking hand. I want to fly over his head. You know,
well, it's like you're right there.
Yeah, I want to go look at Phillips and get above his drum kit so I can see what he's playing. Like all the different angles, right? You're kind of like flying through in
From
VR.
a musician standpoint to just a surreal experience of getting to sit and watch one instrument at a time to the full band, or you're walking through the corridors of them. Like, I think that there's an experience there that you'd have to buy because it's so much data It's a physical thing. It's like buying a ticket to a theme park in a way, right? Because the problem is that audio only from music is already free. And the music video is ultimately free. It's on YouTube. So what is there to buy other than the live show? This would be a physical thing that I think fans of the band, both from musicians to just fans, would love experiencing. And I think they've attempted to make a couple of things that are like this, but not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, well, they still did it like it's a stage. That's stupid. That's so not taking advantage of the technology. Make it where it's spread out like an actual experience. You don't have to make it a stage anymore. It could be a whole other artistic representation. Like you could take advantage of this medium and create something that's like absolutely engulfing, not just sitting in front of a stage that you'd normally be there with people. No. Make a whole, like a music video is cool and completely unrealistic.
How many cameras would this take?
I think roughly you dedicate, let's say 3 per person in the band. And then you choose the angle that you want to go to at the time, or you could put it in a mode where you basically can kind of walk through the whatever the environment is. I mean, I feel like I'm giving away an idea that I want to do, and somebody's going to do this one day, and they're going to make it's going to become a thing.
Edit this out.
This is
We're not live.
this is proof of concept right now.
Yeah, at least I'll let you know what, I'm not going to get to make this thing first as much as I'd love to, but I feel like if I think this is going to be a thing. This is a total wild. I've never heard anyone talk about this. This is my guess. And I think it's going to be something that is like, wow, like, you know, if a band goes on a tour and it's like, dude, did you catch them on the blank tour? You know, say whatever the tour is. It's like, this will be a thing where it's like, dude, did you buy the album? The album is this experience that I'm talking about. Plus you've got just the audio. Plus you've got just a music video if you want to on a normal screen. You don't have to put on a headset. But I think the headset thing with high quality Bose headphones and stuff, this is going to be a thing in the future. I predict in the next 5 to 10 years at the most. I think 5 years we're going to start seeing this, and I think it's going to become a thing, and I think it'll be very profitable. I think it'll be a very profitable, tangible thing to purchase.
So this is
even if
something
it's a
I
download.
can see Tool doing. Now,
Well, it's interesting you say that because they don't really have live stuff. All their stuff is claymation experiences.
exactly, but they have a cool live show with the lights and everything.
They sure do.
But they also don't move a whole lot, so they're
Well,
perfect
Justin-
for cameras.
I'm not Justin. Adam Jones is.
Adam,
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
So-
I agree, Ian.
yeah,
It's a statue, man.
they're statues. They just stand there.
Yeah.
Danny
Yeah.
Carey's my favorite one to
Maynard,
watch.
You know, that's as much as he moves.
I'm cool with Maynard. I just, in
Great.
particular, Adam
He's
Jones
amazing.
is painful to watch, unfortunately. And he's fucking like one of my favorite guitarists of all time. But
But it's hard to watch him.
it's hard to watch. I'm like, dude, how are you not getting into this?
Well, the MO before we go down the why is Tool so stiff rabbit hole.
Tool's my favorite band, guys. So lay off.
The MO right now, I feel like with bands is to release an album, and then prior to the release, they'll shoot several music videos. They'll have 2 to 3 songs that they choose. They're going to be like their singles or whatnot. Before the album comes out, they'll drop the single and the video for number 1. Then they'll drop the album. When the album drops, they'll drop single and video number 2 with the album, or maybe just before. And then after a while, they'll release number 3. I've seen that with a couple of bands. Killswitch Engage did that most recently. They just dropped a new album at the beginning of the month. They came out with a video ahead of the album, but you could tell they shot all the videos around the same time. They all got the same haircuts, different outfits. They probably did it. There's another group, one of my favorite bands, who just finished recording a new album that hasn't been around for a while, called 40 Below Summer. Great band, just got done in the studio, and then they just shot 2 music videos prior to the release, because I follow them on social media, so like they're putting updates on this stuff. But like that seems to be the MO with these music videos, having several of them in the chamber, so to speak, right?
Which is all advertising, but
yeah,
nothing to sell there.
No,
Right,
yeah, like, I'm
a
not buying.
tour,
Nobody's
yeah.
buying the video. Everybody's just putting it on
Yeah.
YouTube and watching it for free with ads.
Well, the problem is it's become it's like keeping up with the Joneses at this point.
Yeah.
You can put out, everybody's putting out a music video on YouTube. That's what people do. And it can be cheap and horrible, or it can be whatever the most recent Falling in Reverse epic music video is.
Yeah, they've got some budgets going on there, man.
They're not getting
Millions
money.
of dollars.
Millions,
for
yeah.
a 3-minute video where no one's spending that kind of money now.
Yeah.
Crucified on a cross. There's angels coming from down
It's
below.
unreal, the budgets. It's like Michael Jackson level productions. For
It's a
Falling in
beautiful
Reverse.
music video.
Yeah,
Richard,
there's some really cool stuff in there.
You might not like Falling in Reverse. You're going to love
Yeah.
these fucking music videos. I'm telling you.
I like a lot of it. 90% of it I like, but it's hard because the music, some of his music I actually liked, but there's a lot of it that's just too cheesy for me.
It's very cheap.
That it kills the music video. I mean, anyway,
But the man
the budgets,
sells-
cinematography wise, it's fucking
The man
amazing.
sells records and he sells tickets. He knows what he's doing, and
He's so controversial. He's bashing.
And that's the point. That's the
Everybody,
point. That's what's
yeah.
that's what's getting him in keeping him in the zeitgeist is all
I
the
know.
trash talking and the nonsense and yeah.
we live in
Totally.
an era where attention is the biggest thing you can have.
It's a commodity.
It is more important than money. You can be broke, but if you have 1 million people watching you on Instagram,
Then you're
going
not
to be
broke.
rich eventually.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, you're not gonna be
that's-
broke for
that's the
long.
way. Yeah.
You're not going to be broke for long. That's how it works. It's about people's attention. It's about being as narcissistic as possible.
Well, it is and it isn't, in the respect of, I feel like, I know it's easy to fall into that trap, but it's easy to typecast that, and it does kind of take that to get to that level. But I do think that some people end up there in ways that aren't narcissistic as much as it's just like it's they can stay true enough to the art that they still present, they just are consistent and show up and provide enough content that it builds the following, that they bust their ass playing the shows, etc. You can get it there without like being. The frustration that I have is that I think we're talking about a lot of marketing and business, and that's required to make it.
Yeah.
And people would say it's about the art. It's like, why are these two things separate? This is just unfortunate. They're not necessarily like, you can do both, right? You can be the most amazing artist and be responsible about understanding how you're releasing content and thinking about it so it can try and cut through the noise. It doesn't mean that your art isn't like every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears that you would have normally put into it. You're just trying to get it out there. And it's so hard to cut through. So it's weird. It's like you could say that everyone is being narcissistic to do that, to execute that task. But it's kind of like, I think it depends on how you do it. I think it depends on how you do it. I think it depends on where your headspace is about why you're doing it.
Fair. I think you got a good point. I do think that a lot of musicians still nowadays kind of fall into the, I've put everything I can into the music. I just don't have
Definitely.
it for everything else. Right?
Definitely. Absolutely.
But if you bring it to football, I'm a football fan. In the 70s, pro football players did nothing but get wasted and eat nothing but garbage food during the off season. And they had to have a training camp to get in shape. That's why they had training camps.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
They also only got paid $100,000 a year.
Mm.
Now these guys are getting paid $20 million a year. They never get out of shape. You can see an Instagram video that they're putting up in the middle of the off season, more in shape than they were during football season because they have more time to actually work out
And recover.
and recover
Yeah.
and, do everything they're supposed to do for, healthy reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're doing more now, and they've realized they have to do more in order to be pros. Why aren't musicians doing that? When musicians, we feel on average, and it's stereotypical, I understand. And musicians, we feel artistic, we feel smart when we come up with something cool. We're very proud of what we do. We feel like artists are viewed as a level of intelligence by the community. Jocks are not viewed that way on average, stereotypically.
Stereotypically, yeah.
Yeah.
Then how come these stereotypical jocks can get this through their head that you need to move to another gear if you want to be professional, but the artists can? Why are we so hung up on it's all about the art, man?
Well, I think, I mean, as much as I'm saying what needs to happen, it's also the reality that not everyone's built for marketing. You know, there is something to like, you could just be totally ignorant to all those aspects. It is taking on like a whole other role. I mean, there's a lot to learn. You know, I get hired to help people market their products and services because it's real, and there's a lot of information that I pass on that they're really happy to have, and it takes years of learning and following, and things change. So I get why people wouldn't necessarily be able to, not everyone can adapt to it. My biggest point about bringing this up and harping on it is just that I think it's important to acknowledge that those are the things that it does take to make it and be able to sit in this, you know, these opportunities that I'm saying I wish that radio would offer more independent artists, and I wish that somehow it was easier to get on playlists with streaming, that, you know, obviously there's some payouts going on with that, you know, because it's legal. There's not like there's a legal loophole at this point when it comes to streaming platforms versus, you know, payola on a radio. You're not allowed to do that, but you can technically. There's not a law against. Yeah, very illegal. But when it comes to pay on streaming, my understanding is you can get away with that. My point is that it costs money to go on tour with a band and open up for them on a leg of a tour. You know, like all these things require money and talent and great songwriting. Like you got to have everything in the chamber. You have to understand that that's what you're competing against. So just keep your expectations realistic is all I'm saying. If you don't want to do all those things, 100% fine. In fact, there's a Buddha level about you that I truly admire and find inspiring. 100%. For me, the number one reason that I push for those things and want to know about it is, one, it ties directly to what I do for a living, because I do marketing for companies. So I just already like marketing.
You do.
I do. I do a lot. And two, you know, I don't feel fulfilled getting to do my art as little as I get to do it. So in other words, I want to make more money doing it so I can get the opportunity to do it more. I want to be able to take off a month or 3 months a year where I could just literally, I mean, I did this the past 2 years in a row. I basically took off months to make the Cue the Muses stuff, right? And the Cue the Muses stuff comes out, and I'm so glad I did it. But at the same token, it did not pay anything, and I didn't bring in any money during that, and it was extremely painful, and it was a recoup process that was very stressful both times immediately following, to like make up for all the money that I didn't bring in for my family. I'm not living by myself. So if my art made money, well, then I'd get to do it more, and I just wish I got to do it all the time. That's the only reason I could have all the money in the world and I'd still be busy night and day than just making art, because I'm that kind of personality, you know. I can't. I'm not happy sitting on my ass.
So the three of us are about the same age, and the three of us have lived through this
54.
time. 58. Ian, 60.
Oh man, you're getting old. I'm only 54.
But the
62.
I don't dye my hair like the rest of you guys.
Yeah, I got
Dick's always dyeing his hair.
Just for men, baby. No. We all lived through the transition. We all were young with no social media, nothing but radio, MTV, music videos on the TV, no YouTube. And then we saw the transition. It started with Napster, then, you know, switched to whatever it was. I had a Kazaa or some
Kazaa and LimeWire.
Got a bunch of viruses on my family computer, downloaded illegal Tool bootlegs or whatever.
Oh no, you did it to Tool.
Yeah, so we're in this, and we all are musicians, and we all have aspiring, you know, goals and have achieved different levels of whatever. Now, that's our generation, right? We are the ones who lived through this change and saw the before and the after. And now Like, and I look at it from a father's standpoint. My son he's 15, he's in high school. You know, he's in the band, and he told me the other night, sitting in here in this room, that he told me he wanted to go to the college. There's a school of music in Daytona that he wants to go to, and that's the college that he wants to go to. And I said, that's great, man. Like, yeah, absolutely. And luckily I said, but you got to, you know, do your research. So he has another friend who's already going there, who graduates this year, and then he's going to that school. I said, well, look, that's a perfect opportunity. You have someone on the inside. You can get his story. You have 2 more years of high school yourself. You can see how it is. What we know, you can, you know, check in on him and kind of get the inside scoop on what this school's all about. Now, what I'm kind of going with this is this next generation. I'm thinking about my son here. I'm thinking about the next generation music. He's like me. He is into the same groups as me. I don't know how that happened. Usually your kids distance themselves as far away from you as possible. Sure. Yeah. But there are kids out there, like, and I see them through his friends group, and Ash, your son's one of them. Like, they like the similar music, the same stuff that I liked when I was a kid, and it's going to continue. But like, what's it going to be like? You know, when he's in his 20s in another 10 years, you know, and maybe he's in a group doing something and pushing it. What's that landscape going to be? Because it's going to change. It's changed since 10 years from before. So like
an AI music.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much up in the air right now with what's happening.
It's such a volatile time where, you know, and in my opinion, I don't like calling myself an artist. I play music. I write music. I like doing all that. I don't like getting trapped in like what we were talking about earlier, that artist mindset where like I don't want to. I just want to make it and put it out there. Like, but that's what I do. I make it my personal stuff. Now I'm not talking about the collaborative stuff. My personal stuff, I just write it and make it. I throw it out there, and it's like I post and ghost. I don't want to know, you know, I don't care if it's great. You like it, cool. Like, but that's like my personal stuff, because I'm more of a production mindset type of person. If I'm writing, I want to write it. If it's not working, I'm not going to beat my head about it. I'm not going to like go crazy. I got to finish this. It's just, it's there, it's not. And if it's not, I move on and go somewhere else. And, you know, over the years, there's been a lot of half songs written because of that. And I'm just one story in a sea of 1,000, 100,000, thousands of stories, right? Like, there's musicians everywhere. And I feel that, you know, as long as we're creating and continuing to create this, we're in this kind of float phase right now where it's not necessarily lucrative. It's tough to get a positive outcome from what we do. But there are still newer bands coming out. There are still avenues to go down.
There's phenomenal stuff coming out right now that blows my mind. I think the new generation is really catching hold of, like, I feel like I'm hearing some stuff starting to happen that, like, that's this generation's sound that inspired me. Like, I can tell. And it's amazing to hear youth have it. And there is something about that, man. I mean, like, there's some great stuff happening right now in music, even among all the watered down stuff. There's insanely good stuff.
I encourage these kids to be smarter too, smarter. Like my son, he was showing me earlier a new song he's got to learn he's in the orchestra in the high school. He pulls out the sheet music. He was like, "This is what I got to learn," and I'm like, "That looks like Martian hieroglyphics."
I know, I never learned how to read music.
Yeah, but he's showing me, he's like, well, yeah, this part right here, and it's like this really complex notey thing that goes up, down, 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 down. He's like, this is the most difficult part. I said, I could see that because it's the busiest part in the little section there. He said, yeah, but I can play it. And then he let me hear it in the car. And I'm not totally ignorant to like sheet music. I understand what it is, and its notes, and it's this time signature and all that stuff. Yeah. And like when I hear it, I could kind of see the parts that he's like, this is the one part I'm telling you about. And it's like this it's a Japanese symphony song. And I could hear it, and like just his knowledge base that he's getting, like that fundamental foundation, I feel is like, I didn't get that. I don't know if either of you guys took band in school or anything, but it's like seeing that
did?
kind of. Did
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Did you?
So
What were
that,
you on?
that explains a lot.
Yeah, that
I
does
grew-
explain a lot.
I grew up in Miami.
Miami.
Okay,
That's why you
yeah.
got the jersey back there.
Booyah.
Hell yeah, dog.
Yep. Pain until I die from those people. I went to school, and I went to a private school for high school, Christian school. And I was in. So here's the dirty little secret. It took me 5 years to graduate high school.
Oh,
I didn't graduate from high school, so there you go.
So there you go, Ash.
me
I'm
neither.
a GED guy. Yeah.
GED guy over here too.
Oh, both of you. Perfect. So it took me 5 years. And in that time, I was in the praise band. Sorry.
The demons got
Edit that. I was in the praise band, the jazz band, audiovisual club, choir. I won superior in choir.
Wow.
I was in
awesome.
the orchestra. I played clarinet and bass clarinet.
Whoa.
learned-
Why are you breaking
Jazz
this shit
band.
out on your live performances?
And then
Dude, when you
I,
were wearing all that face paint and Defy the Tyrant, if you broke out a clarinet,
Yeah.
you guys would have made it.
yeah, I would
Get your shit together, marketing guy.
That's
Come
right.
on.
Bring
Clarinet
me
in
the
the
fucking
middle
clarinet.
of the breakdown, the clarinet breakdown.
Yeah.
Dude, I think it would have been a hit. Live,
Yeah.
that shit would have been crazy. People would have loved
Yeah.
you. You would have been the hit,
People
the
would have
highlight of the
Fucking
night.
freak the fuck out, yeah.
Kurt would have been jealous of you every time you broke out that clarinet.
He's jealous of him
That's my
anyway.
cuddle buddy. My hotel cuddle buddy right there.
Oh.
Yeah, Oh, you guys playing clarinet together?
You beat him on the podcast tonight. Now you can rub it in his
Oh
face.
yeah.
Does that mean I get to be in the next Muses?
Yeah.
Maybe so. If you're paying for it.
I
Yeah.
feel like I was the only person left out.
Oh, bullshit. There was
No.
plenty of people that have complained.
I know.
Everybody complains.
Everybody.
Like
complained.
we
That's
included
all we're
as
gonna
many
get
as we
everybody
could.
except everybody.
You make a 10-person band.
Yeah.
That's exactly
We
right. It's
we
so
lost
many
so
people.
much time and money on this.
You guys
How-
did spend, you
Yeah.
spent a shit ton on that.
We spent, dude, the time and money. I don't even want to put it on paper, you know. And it's still not done. I mean, we still have the last episode. It's already filmed. The songs are recorded, and there's some of they're
You haven't
amazing
edited
songs.
it or recorded? Have you recorded the video at least?
Everything's
Yeah,
recorded.
everything's done. Kurt
So you
is
just have
in
to edit
one
it
of them.
down.
Yeah, Kurt.
Well,
Kurt
edit
did-
it down as a way. Spend 300 hours editing each music video, and then 300 hours editing. I have like somewhere between 600 to 900 more hours of editing to do to make the last episode because it's a double music video.
Ash, please tell me you have a behind the music cut of this whole thing.
Dude,
VH1
I don't-
style.
That's
behind the
another.
music with interviews.
That's a whole other fucking year of making that. I mean, it's just I want to make everything. This is my point. If I could make some money doing this, I would make all those things. We would have already
No
had Key of the
advertising.
Muses wrapped up. We'd be
No
on our second.
advertising.
I know. I don't have any money for
We'll put your
advertising.
donuts in the Muses if you give us
Put-
$2,000.
Yeah, we
What? Let's do it.
yeah, we
So-
we had an advertisement meeting one time with an advertisement guy, and
Oh, okay.
the numbers
Sure.
the numbers they spat out was like, you know, what was it, 30K a month?
No,
like-
it was. It was going to be. I think that the starting was like, and we didn't even consider doing this, especially as somebody that does marketing myself. It was going
Yeah.
to be like $9,000 a month as
Okay.
What?
the
What were they?
dude. It was ridiculous. It made me realize I should be charging more. It was just like some social media posting. It's. I was like, this is all shit I can do that I basically am already doing.
Yeah.
You know, it was like fragmented small ads that didn't sound like they even understood what our concept was when they're pitching it back to us. I was like, this is a scam. You know, it's like I put way more effort into talking to my clients when I'm going to induct somebody into making content for them than this. It's like,
Yeah.
you guys are giving us a template before we even get started talking. And you're throwing
So-
out really big numbers to just,
So you do the marketing side, but you do the creation side as well. I work with a good amount of agencies at this point. a lot of these agents, the bulk of the money is going to the creative side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And if the bulk of the money is not going there, don't use that agency. Because they need to be putting time and energy into knowing what your product is, knowing who you are, and how to put together the creative to put it out into the world. That's where the bulk of the money should be spent. That's
agreed.
Professional tip for any band out there.
Yeah.
After that, you have to pay for the impressions. That's just a fact of life.
No, I know. I wish we had a budget to work with for that. It's like a goal, you know, and it's one of those things that I feel like in particular when the whole thing, we've gone well past our hour. I'm going to close out by saying if when everything is out that we have made, in other words, we've got our music videos and all that, like when the whole album's wrapped, I feel like that's the opportunity to really dig into pushing it a few different ways with impressions. So if you could play us out, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ian.
This has been episode
of
68.
McKenzie.
Episode 68 of the MuseCast with Ian Mckenzie, Dick Burt, and that's Ashton Chamier.
It's me.
Over there.
Over here. Oh, is this Creed? Are we going out with some? No, I thought it was. There you go.
And we're demonetized.
Oh shit!
No, I only played it for 5 seconds. We're fine.
Yeah,
We're good.
We're good.
Dude, I think it was a very stimulating, great conversation. I'm really happy you came on, man. We'll have to do it again, especially as things evolve in the landscape that is ever changing in media and advertising now.
Well, I'm going to play us out, boys. 3, 2, 1. Thank y'all.
Bye, guys. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the podcast, that's awesome. We really appreciate it. But you should check out our full actual web series if you have not seen it yet, because this is where we put all the effort into a production. It's a sci-fi comedy, but we're a rock band, and so we put music videos inside of each episode.
No views but your own easy escape. Don't pay no mind to what they say. They're in their own world anyway.
Each episode features a new singer on each song that we unveil within the episode.
And will they
all unique singers from the Southeast region, most of them from right here in the Florida Panhandle, and all independent, unsigned, unknown artists until now.
No matter how hard I try to turn it down.
The premise of the show, Ash and I are a couple of bonehead guitar players living off the grid, trying to save humanity, which has been brainwashed from an artificial intelligence stripping us away of our creativity and our creative spirit.
We developed a mind travel machine to go into people's brains and collaborate with their inner muses, bringing back music that is completely organic from human muse collaborations. Enter Cue the Muses. You know what, we're kind of getting sidetracked, man. There's only so much time for frequency absorption. We need to hop on it. Can you fire up the cadence tubes?
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and get my shoes tied.
Okay. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click the little bell. Tell YouTube that we matter, that you like us, and that you want to see more of us, because that's the only way that happens. Stay tuned.